The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Lyra walked carefully through the tall, glowing grass. Her boots made soft, crunching sounds as she stepped over fallen leaves and broken branches. The air was thick with mist, and the strange blue trees around her reached high into the sky like giant claws. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her camp was far behind. The other survivors from the crash had warned her. "Don't go into the jungle," they said. "There are creatures out there, dangerous ones." But Lyra had heard something, a sound, not an animal, not wind. It was a cry, deep, long, and full of pain. It had pulled her like a string. She couldn't ignore it. Her hands were shaking, holding her small knife tightly. Her bag bounced on her shoulder as she moved faster. She followed the sound until she came to a wide opening in the trees, and then she saw it. Lyra froze. Her heart almost stopped. Lying in the middle of the clearing was a dragon, but not like the ones in old human stories. This one was beautiful and strange. Its body was huge, covered in white shining scales. Its wings were wide and torn. Long horns curved from its head, and silver blood poured from its chest. It looked like snow and light mixed into one creature. But it was dying. The dragon let out another cry, weaker this time, its head turned slightly, eyes opening just enough to look at her. Lyra took a step back. Oh no. The dragon didn't move to attack. It didn't even growl. It just stared at her. Its eyes were golden, deep and sad. Not wild, not angry. Just tired. Lyra stepped forward, slowly. Her instincts screamed at her to run, to go back. But something else, something stronger, kept her feet moving. That's when she saw it. A huge thorn was stuck in the dragon's chest. It looked like a weapon, dark and twisted, maybe from another creature or maybe a trap. Whatever it was hurting the dragon badly. The scales around the thorn were cracked and bleeding. The dragon's body shook with every breath. Lyra dropped to her knees near the creature's side. "You're hurt," she whispered. The dragon didn't answer, of course, but it didn't move either. It allowed her to get close. She touched the base of the thorn. It was stuck deep. It would take strength to pull it out. Lyra looked into the dragon's eyes again. "I want to help you," she said softly, "but this will hurt." The dragon blinked. Once, as if it understood. Lyra took a deep breath. She wrapped both hands around the thorn and pulled. It didn't move. She cried out, putting all her weight into it. Her arms shook. Her muscles screamed. Blood from the wound covered her hands. The thorn was sharp. It tore at the dragon's skin as it moved. But still she didn't stop. "Come on," she whispered. "Just a little more." And then with a loud snap, it came free. The dragon roared. The sound shook the trees and made birds fly from the treetops. Lyra fell backward, holding the bloody thorn. The dragon's head dropped to the ground. Its breathing slowed. "Oh no," Lyra said, crawling forward. "Please don't die." She dropped the thorn and touched the dragon's snout gently. Its eyes opened again, just a little. "You're okay," she said softly. "You're going to be okay." But she wasn't sure if that was true. Around them, the jungle grew quiet again. The wind stopped. Even the glowing bugs seemed to vanish. Lyra looked around. Something felt wrong. She felt watched. Her heart beat faster. She stood up slowly, listening. Leaves rustled behind her. She turned. Nothing. Then another sound. Closer. Low breathing. Heavy footsteps. Lyra grabbed her knife and looked around. "Who's there?" she called out. No answer. But the feeling didn't go away. She looked back at the dragon. Its eyes were closed again. Blood still dripped from its wound, but the thorn was gone. Maybe that would help. Maybe it had a chance now. Lyra sat beside it. She didn't want to leave it alone. Not like this. But deep in her chest, she knew something had changed. She hadn't just found a dragon. She had done something dangerous. And someone or something new. Smoke from the dragon's wound mixed with the cool night air. Lyra sat beside the giant creature, her small body shaking with pain and fear. Her arms were stained with its glowing silver blood. The thorn she had pulled now lay on the grass beside her, dark, twisted, and humming softly like it still had life inside it. She stared at it. It didn't look natural. It didn't look like something from the jungle. It looked made. Was it? A weapon? A curse? Or something worse? She reached out to touch it again, but her hand froze. A cold wind passed through the trees. Something was changing. She turned to look at the dragon. Its huge body rose and fell slowly with each breath. It was alive, but just barely. Blood kept flowing from the open wound, and steam came from its nostrils with each breath. The scales around the injury were blackened now, almost burned. Lyra frowned. That thorn. It was killing you slowly, she whispered. The dragon didn't move. She tore cloth from her sleeve and pressed it against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. The cloth turned silver fast, soaked in dragon blood. Her hands trembled, but she kept going. Don't die, she said. Please don't die. That's when she heard it. A low hum, not from the thorn this time, from above. She looked up and saw 3 small blinking lights in the sky like distant stars, but they were moving. Too fast. They were ships. Lyra gasped and grabbed her bag. No, no, no. She knew that sound. Those lights weren't rescue. They were hunters. She had heard rumors at the crash site. Some aliens made money hunting rare creatures, especially ones with power. And this dragon? It wasn't just rare. It was probably the last of its kind. Lyra turned back to the dragon. They're coming for you, aren't they? She didn't expect an answer. But something strange happened. The dragon opened one eye and she heard a sound. Not in her ears, but inside her head. A word. Not English. Not a language she knew. But it had meaning. Run. Lyra gasped and stepped back. The dragon had spoken, to her, without moving its mouth. Just a voice in her mind, soft and distant like an old memory. I'm not leaving you, she whispered. Another word came into her mind. Death follows. Her heart thudded in her chest. Then a loud crack filled the forest. The ground shook slightly. A flash of red light exploded in the distance. Something or someone had landed. Too close. Lyra grabbed her knife again and looked around. Okay, she whispered. We're not running. Not yet. She pulled out 2 glow sticks from her bag, cracked them, and shoved them into the thorn, wound to slow the bleeding. The dragon let out a soft growl but didn't push her away. Then she did something strange. She placed her forehead gently against the dragon's snout. I don't know why I'm helping you, she said. I just have to. Suddenly her skin began to tingle. A soft blue light passed from the dragon's scales into her hands. Visions flashed in her mind, a great battle in space, dragons in chains, an alien queen laughing, and this white dragon, alone, hunted, bleeding under 2 alien moons. Lyra fell backward, gasping for breath. What was that? She cried. The dragon didn't respond. Its eyes closed again, but something had changed. She felt it in her chest. A small glowing mark had appeared on the back of her hand, shaped like a flame. It burned softly, like it was alive. And in the air, the thorn she had pulled began to crack and melt, like it had done its job and was now finished. But Lyra knew this was far from over. She looked toward the trees, where the light had flashed earlier, and she whispered, They're coming. Then she looked at the dragon again, and her voice turned into a promise. And if they want you, they'll have to go through me first. The sky turned darker and the mist thickened. Lyra sat with her back against the dragon's warm side. Her eyes stayed open, watching the jungle. She hadn't slept. She didn't dare. The glowing mark on her hand still pulsed like a slow heartbeat. She tried to ignore it, but it was there, like a warning. The dragon, Asharin, she now whispered the name she saw in her vision, was breathing slow and deep. Alive, but still weak. Suddenly the forest changed. The soft sounds of bugs and rustling leaves stopped. All at once. Lyra noticed it right away. She stood up and picked up her small blade. Something wasn't right. She stepped in front of Asharin, scanning the trees. The mist moved like it was alive. Shadows danced inside it. Then she heard the click, click, click. 3 sharp clicks, not a machine, not a weapon, claws. Then came the growls, deep, hungry, getting closer. Lyra turned slowly. Eyes, dozens of them, glowing green, watching her from the fog. Small bodies crawled through the trees, long and thin with sharp legs and dripping fangs. Their skin looked like twisted bark and their jaws opened sideways. Jungle reapers. The same creatures that dragged away 2 of her camp members last week. She had never seen them this close, never this many. And now, they had found her. Lyra backed, up, hand shaking, blade raised. One stepped out of the mist, twice her height, its back curved, breathing heavily. Drool hit the grass. It snarled. The others joined it. Lyra whispered, "No. Not now." One of the reapers screamed and lunged forward. Lyra screamed and swung her blade. It would have killed her, but it didn't reach, because behind her, the dragon moved. Asharen's golden eyes snapped open. With a sudden burst of fire, the jungle lit up like a sun. The fire wasn't normal. It was blue and cold, yet it burned the creatures like paper. 2 reapers melted in front of Lyra's eyes. She turned and saw the dragon standing, shaking, bleeding but standing. Asharin roared. The sound shook the ground. Trees bent. Mist flew away in waves. The reapers backed up. Lyra stood beside the dragon, breathing hard, eyes wide. The reapers didn't run. They charged. Lyra yelled, "Get back!" and stabbed one in the eye as it leapt. The dragon swept its tail and knocked 3 more into the trees. But there were too many. Asharin bent low and growled. Lyra suddenly knew what the dragon wanted. "Get on your back?" she asked, shocked. The dragon didn't speak, but lowered its wing. The jungle screamed behind them. Lyra climbed up. "Okay, go." The dragon pushed forward, wings dragging, body slow but strong. It moved through the trees, crushing anything in its path. Lyra held tight to a spike behind its neck. The reapers followed, shrieking. The dragon roared and blew fire again, burning a path through the thick trees. And then, up ahead, light. A river, wide and glowing, with stones like glass on its shore. The dragon ran straight into it and dived. Lyra screamed as cold water rushed over her. She held her breath. She felt the dragon swimming fast. Strong muscles pushing through the water, and then, air. They broke through the surface on the other side. Lyra gasped and coughed. The dragon crawled onto the rocks, panting. Behind them, the reapers didn't follow. They hated water. They screamed from the far shore but stayed back. They were safe. For now, Lyra slid off Asharin's back and sat down, soaked, shaking. She looked at the dragon, breathing hard. "You saved me," she whispered. Asharin looked at her, then lowered its head. Not in pain, but in trust. Lyra reached out and touched its snout gently. "I won't leave you," she promised, "even if the whole galaxy is after us." Somewhere, far behind them, another light flashed in the sky. Not green this time. Red dot a signal. Something worse than reapers was coming. But Lyra didn't know that yet. She just sat beside the dragon watching the river flow, and the jungle hunters, finally silent. The river whispered softly, Night had fully taken the sky. Stars blinked above, and the two alien moons lit the world in pale light. One was blue, one was red, watching like twin eyes. Lyra sat by the fire, her wet clothes now half dry. The dragon, HFY, lay nearby. Wounded, silent, still glowing faintly from under her scales. Lyra had made a fire using dry leaves and a sparkstone from her belt. The flames danced gently, but they weren't the only thing glowing tonight. The mark on her hand, given to her when she pulled the thorn, was still there. Brighter now. Warmer. She stared at it. It pulsed like it had a heartbeat of its own. She reached toward the fire to warm her hands. But then, a flame rose suddenly higher, twisting into a strange shape. It looked like a face. Then it turned into smoke. Lyra blinked. What was that? She turned to the dragon. HFY's eyes were half closed but open enough to see her. Did you do that? She whispered. The dragon didn't speak, but something flowed again, a feeling in her mind. Not a voice, not words, but emotion, pain, loneliness, and a deep, burning sorrow. Suddenly, Lyra felt cold inside, like she had been dropped into a memory that wasn't hers. She wasn't sitting by the river anymore. She was somewhere else. The vision began. Metal walls, screams, chains, dozens of dragons, all white, all beautiful, all locked in cages too small for their wings. A girl, young, like Lyra, stood behind a glass wall. She watched as aliens in black armor pulled dragons with electric hooks, dragging them like animals. In the center of it all, HFY, smaller, younger, bleeding, fighting, her eyes wild. But then a voice echoed in the air, harsh and cruel, a female voice, cold like ice. Break. Her spirit, make her kneel. Electric spears flashed. HFY fell. Lyra gasped and pulled back. She was back by the river. The fire crackled again like nothing had happened. She wiped her face. She hadn't noticed she was crying. She turned toward the dragon. That was your memory? HFY didn't move. But the mark on Lyra's hand glowed again, this time brighter. She hurt you, Lyra whispered. That woman, she used you. She made you a prisoner. She looked back at the fire. Now she understood. The thorn wasn't just a trap. It was a command, a spell, a punishment. Someone didn't want HFY to survive. Someone feared her, and that someone was still looking for her. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Then we can't stop here. She stood up and walked over to the dragon. Gently, she placed her hand on HFY's head. I know you're still healing, but you're not alone anymore. The dragon's eye opened. Just one. Lyra smiled softly. I'm with you now. The air shifted. The fire burst higher for just a second, warm and calm this time. The dragon exhaled slowly, and for the first time it seemed peaceful. Lyra sat down beside her again. But far across the river, deep in the jungle, a different kind of fire lit the sky. Red flares, signals. A ship had landed, and walking out of it, tall, in silver armor, was the one who had once given the command. Break her spirit. Now she said only one word. Tracker. The stars above were no longer still. Lyra stood near the river's edge, her eyes locked on the sky. What first looked like stars began to move, fast, steady, and in a line. She counted 3. Not natural, not safe. A low humming began to fill the air like thunder, but longer, smoother, colder. The wind around her shifted. She ran back to HFY, who was still resting, her wounds glowing dimly. They're coming, Lyra whispered. I think they found you. The dragon opened her golden eyes, slow but alert. The mark on Lyra's hand pulsed again. She felt something push inside her chest. Not fear, not warning, It was a choice. Across the jungle, above the river, the ships broke through the clouds. They weren't large warships. No, these were sleek, quiet, designed to hunt. Each one had silver wings, sharp as blades, and a black symbol burned into the side, a serpent circling a broken star. Lyra didn't know the mark, but Asharan did, and she growled. Lyra turned. You know them? A sharp memory flashed into her mind. Asharan's memory. A metal collar, a whip, cold rooms, a woman's laugh. The same symbol burned into every wall. These weren't just hunters. They were her jailers. One of the ships fired a flare. Red smoke rose in the distance, marking the air. They were not searching. They were closing in. Lyra looked at the trees behind them. We have to move, she said, panicked. You're still weak, but we can't stay here. The dragon pushed herself up slowly, wincing. Blood still dripped from the wound, but her eyes were clear now. Strong. Lyra climbed onto her back again, holding tight to the curved spine ridges. Let's go. The dragon opened her wings, but didn't fly. Not yet. Instead, she ran, swift and low, keeping under the trees. The ground blurred beneath them. Lyra ducked under branches, her heart racing. But in the distance, a different sound rose. A howl. Mechanical. Cold. Lyra looked back. Shadows moved between the trees, tall figures in glowing armor. One raised a hand, and then, zap. A bolt of blue energy struck the trunk near them, exploding into sparks. Lyra screamed. They're right behind us. The dragon turned sharply, sliding down a slope. They reached an open canyon where strange stones floated in the air, magnetic. Cliffs, glowing purple. The dragon leapt from stone to stone, wings spreading wide for balance. Lyra looked back and gasped. They were following on hovercrafts, fast, smooth machines with red lights glowing beneath them. Lyra's breath caught as one of the hunters jumped off and landed on a floating rock behind them. He was huge, taller than any human, his face hidden under a mask and his hands glowing with plasma rings. The hunter raised his arm, ready to strike. No! Lyra shouted. She grabbed a flare from her bag and lit it, bright orange. Then she threw it behind them. Boom! It hit the floating stone, bursting into fire and sparks. The stone cracked, and the hunter fell with a roar, vanishing into the mist below. But there were more. As the dragon reached the end of the canyon, they came to a wide field of soft grass and ruined machines. Old war wreckage from years ago. Twisted metal. Broken bots. Half-buried tanks. A battlefield long forgotten. Asharan slowed down. Why are we stopping? Lyra asked. The dragon looked around. Then Lyra saw it too. A ship, half covered in vines. Small, but maybe flyable. Lyra jumped off and ran toward it. Please work. Please work. Inside, everything was dead. Power core cracked. Systems fried. But she had an idea. She turned to the dragon. We need this ship to scare them. Can you do that fire thing again? The dragon tilted. Her head. Lyra pulled open the side panel of the ship and found the fuel tank. Aim here. Asharan stepped back. Her chest glowed. Whoosh! Blue fire shot forward and hit the tank. The ship burst into flames, huge, loud, bright. The jungle lit up. The hunters saw it. They paused. Some turned back. Others raised weapons. But the fire grew louder, burning like a dying star. Lyra and Asharan slipped back into the trees, silent and low. They had escaped for now, but the enemy now knew. She wasn't just helping a dragon. She was part of something older, deeper, forbidden. And high above the firelight inside the lead hunter's ship, a hologram flickered. A face appeared. Cold eyes, silver hair. The woman from Asharan's memories. She spoke one word. Alive. Smoke still rose from the wrecked battlefield. Lyra and Asharan moved quietly through the dense jungle again, farther from the river and deeper into a forgotten valley. Strange plants glowed with soft colors, and the ground was soft like ash. It was a dead place, silent, still. Lyra was exhausted. Her legs ached. Her arms trembled, but she didn't stop. The dragon walked slowly beside her. She was healing, but not fast enough. The wound where the thorn had been still dripped silver blood. They reached a rocky ledge overlooking an ancient crater. Broken, walls of some long-dead alien city stretched out below, buried and forgotten. "This is where we hide," Lyra whispered. "They won't find us down there." The dragon nodded once, slowly, and began to move down the slope. But before they could reach the bottom, they heard footsteps, not from the trees, from behind. Lyra turned and froze. A man stood there, but he wasn't human. He looked like one, same height, same shape, but his skin had a silver sheen, and his eyes glowed red like hot metal. His armor was thin but bright, shining with alien tech. A glowing whip hung at his side. He stepped forward without fear. The dragon growled. Lyra raised her knife, hands shaking. The man smiled. "Step away from the asset," he said, in a cold, smooth voice. "This is your only warning, human." "She's not an asset," Lyra snapped. "She's not yours." The man's smile faded. "She was born in a cage, bred for power. She belongs to us. She doesn't belong to anyone." Asherin took a slow step forward. Her scales began to shimmer, like light rippling across snow. The man didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled the glowing whip from his belt. It buzzed with electric fire. "I do not want to harm you," he said to Lyra, "but if you block my way..." He raised the whip. Lyra didn't move. She stepped in front of Asherin, blade still in her hand. "I won't let you touch her." There was a long silence. Then the whip lashed forward. The strike came fast, aimed straight at Asherin's chest, but it never reached, because Lyra moved. The whip struck her instead, across the side of her ribs. She flew backward, hitting the rocks hard. She gasped in pain. Blood ran from the cut. The hunter stepped forward again, ready for a second strike. But something inside Asherin snapped. The dragon roared. Her wings spread wide. Her chest lit up with ancient fire. She charged the man, not flying but leaping like lightning. He swung his whip again, but Asherin grabbed him in her jaws and crushed him. Metal armor cracked. Sparks flew. The man screamed, and then there was silence. She threw his body aside. Lyra lay still on the ground, breathing weakly. "I'm okay," she whispered, even though she wasn't sure. Asherin rushed to her side. She nudged Lyra with her snout, soft and slow. The dragon made a sound Lyra had never heard before, like a whimper, a sad, deep cry. "I told you," Lyra said through the pain. "I won't let them take you." Then she fainted. It was hours before she woke. Night again. The crater sky above, full of stars. But now, something had changed. She wasn't lying on the rocks anymore. She was lying on soft moss inside a ruined dome. Asherin had carried her here, protected her. And beside her lay something glowing. A scale. A single white dragon scale. Warm. Humming softly with energy. Lyra touched it, and the mark on her hand flared bright. A memory entered her mind again. Not of war, not of pain, but of a bond. A time long ago when dragons chose partners, not slaves. Not riders. Hearts. Lyra gasped as understanding filled her chest. She hadn't just helped Asherin. She had become part of her. Outside the dome, another hunter watched silently from the shadows. She was taller than the last, her armor black and smooth, her face covered. She spoke into her comm device. The girl protected the dragon. They're bonded now. On the other end, a cold voice answered, "Then bring both of them alive. The Empress wants her weapon back. And now, she wants the human too." The dawn was quiet. Soft light spilled over the ancient crater where Lyra and Asheran hid. The air was cool but full of a strange warmth, the kind that comes after a storm. Lyra woke slowly, her body still sore but her spirit stronger than before. She looked around. The dome where she had rested was empty, but she was not alone. Asheran stood nearby, her huge white wings folded gently. The dragon's golden eyes locked with Lyra's, full of trust and something new, hope. Lyra stood and stretched. The glowing mark on her hand pulsed softly, like a heartbeat she could feel inside herself. She touched it. A sharp warmth spread from her palm, moving up her arm. It was not pain. It was life. Suddenly the ground trembled. Far above, a ship hovered, not a hunter's ship, a massive vessel, shining with blue light, the flag of the ancient guardians. They were legends, keepers of peace, protectors of lost species, Lyra's. Heart pounded. The ship's ramp lowered. From it stepped a tall figure, a woman with silver hair and eyes like stars. She smiled gently. "You have done what many could not," she said. "You have awakened the bond." Lyra looked at Asheran. The dragon nodded slowly. The woman continued. "The thorn was not just a weapon. It was a test, meant to find a true guardian." Lyra's mind raced. A test? But why me? The woman stepped closer. "Because the bond is not just between dragon and human. It is between soul and soul." She raised her hand and a soft light connected Lyra and Asheran. The mark on Lyra's hand glowed bright, then spread like fire across her skin, weaving patterns of light. In that moment, Lyra understood. Her life was no longer her own. She and Asheran were linked forever. They could feel each other's pain, strength, and heart. When one was hurt, the other healed. When one feared, the other stood strong. Together, they were more than human or dragon. They were one. Suddenly, a sharp sound pierced the air. The hunters had found them. From the trees came the dark figures, armored, armed, and angry. But this time, Lyra did not feel fear. She raised her hands. Blue fire erupted from Asheran's chest, surrounding them both like a shield. The hunters hesitated. Then, with a roar that shook the sky, Asheran spread her wings and took flight, lifting Lyra high above the ground. The hunters fired, but the fire shield held strong. Lyra looked down at the jungle below. She smiled. She was not alone, and she was not weak. As they soared into the sky, the ancient guardian woman spoke again. "You are the last hope, for your world and ours." Lyra held tight to the dragon's neck. "I will protect you," she said, "and you will protect me." They flew toward the rising sun, bound by more than fate, bound by a bond that no enemy could break. The jungle below grew small, but in their hearts the fire burned bright. Together, the human and the albino dragon were unstoppable, and the galaxy would remember their story forever.